Yep.
Craig?
Phenomenal episode. I mean, what a build up. I mean, the tension, even from the minute he got to the prison a couple episodes ago, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 ago, just incredible. Andy Serkis was outstanding. Just his, even the way he looks in with it, just looking away, the facial expressions he makes are so intense. He's just been unbelievable, and he just shines in every scene that he's in, and he was just unreal in this episode. And God, it would be really wild if he doesn't survive after helping everybody get out like that, you know. So hopefully he does, although, you know, where would he really go in the story? I don't know. Can you guys really see his character keep going throughout the series? I don't know. I really loved him, so I hope so, at least on some level.
Right.
But the writing is almost poetic at times in the way that they talk, and sometimes it feels a little unrealistic in the sense that, particularly when the show was starting off, people were talking about historical events like almost like they lived them, like everybody would know these things as common facts at times. And that kind of threw me off a little bit, because I'd be like, all right, like, could you guys really talk about what happened in some other country, you know, even a few years ago, like you knew it really well, you know what I mean? So sometimes the writing is so beyond, like, I think how people just genuinely talk or about things in the moment, but you know, it's so well done in like almost every aspect. I really don't understand why people aren't watching the show. It was a little slow at first, but you know, the payoff has just been outstanding. Mon Mothma has been phenomenal.
Yes.
Um, you know, even the Imperial side of it has just been so interesting to watch that whole perspective and seeing it play out. Although, what's the other guy's name? We didn't see him this week. His character is a bit odd. Is it
Cyril?
Cyril, yeah, that's it. That's what I was saying. His character is a bit odd, so I'm not quite sure where they're going with this. And now he looks like a love-struck stalker.
Yeah. That was a bit creepy, man.
That. I really didn't get that vibe from him as like a stalker that has a crush. I got it more of a stalker that wants to get back into, like, he's in love with the Empire. He's in love with the law, the justice of the universe.
Yeah, there is an obsession there, but you know, it does. A lot of people act like that when they're obsessed with love, you know, somebody. So there might be some element of that in there too. You know what I mean? I guess we'll find. So I'm not quite sure where they're going to go with his character. But the show, I mean, this episode was, it seemed like a season finale. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
And it's episode 10.
Outstanding. So I mean, could you put that next to Book of Boba Fett? It's like, please, Tony Gilroy, can you please write something for Boba Fett, please?
Yeah, that would be something. That would be really something.
But think about it. When you see the writing of that show compared to this, it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's totally two different franchises almost.
I mean, I really bring Tony back and on other projects besides Andor.
Rogue 2 when the Bothans die.
There you go. Hey.
You can bring back Genevieve O'Reilly.
So right before Return of the Jedi.
Exactly.
Yeah. We could see live on-screen Bothans for the very first time. I think we did see one with a helmet on in the background in Return of the Jedi, but I mean, we didn't get to see the spatial.
Yeah. I thought supposedly, wasn't there a rumor that we saw one in deleted footage from episode 1 that he's like driving the cab that Anakin gets in, the sky cab?
I think that was like wishful thinking, really, but I don't think that was a Bothan. I don't think it was confirmed. Yeah. But yeah, my thoughts on episode 10 One Way Out. I mean, it was incredible, visceral. The pacing was great. The writing was great. The action was great. I love Andy Serkis. To me, he's a legend. I mean, he's Caesar, Gollum. What am I missing? He directed the second unit on The Hobbits. He's Ulysses Claw, who just chewed all kinds of scenery, and Black Panther. And he was a great pick to be that character. And yeah, going back to what General Kenobi just said about the scene with Luthen, and what I was hoping was going to be level 1313 on Coruscant, that would have been a cool callback.
Yeah.
But he gives that monologue. Basically, you could have just maybe had a one-word sentence to answer that question that Lonnie had for him, was everything. He gave up everything. But he articulated it in a way that was just awesome to hear him give that speech, and the writing is just fantastic. And
that's where it felt like poetry.
Yeah,
right.
The way he said it, that felt like poetry.
And to the character, right? Like you get the feeling that he's thought about this answer maybe way more than he wants to admit, right? Like he has a tally, he has a laundry list of the things that he's given up on, right? So when somebody asks him, he just, he's like, oh, what have I given up? Well, let me tell you, because I think about it every single night when I lay awake in my bed, thinking if they're gonna come after me, right? And he just goes off. So I think it added that little like extra layer of depth, right, to the character. And it's like, dude, this guy knows, right, that all of his fighting will be, again, he will not, he will not see the real fruits of his labor, right, of his sacrifice. He's just planting the seed for somebody else to sow later. But I don't know. I enjoyed that, like I said, a lot. And of course it all hangs on his delivery, right? And Skarsgård just does it flawless, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and it is super thought-provoking.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the acting in the show is just unbelievable from everybody, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, totally agree. Go back to Kino Loy, Andy Serkis. I mean, he gave an incredible performance. And funny enough, I became a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and I discovered Andy Serkis pretty much there. But he had been acting beforehand, and he would show up in several movies. I had no idea who he was, so he wasn't a working actor. But not until Gollum, he got famous for the voice role. Yeah. And then, of course, he pioneered motion capture and founded his own studio with the Imaginarium. And now he did a whole trilogy of Planet of the Apes where he played Caesar, and he did that whole...
That too.
Yeah, gone through that whole franchise. And I mean, he's just incredible. Diego Luna also as well. I mean, he is that character. I mean, he is Cassian Andor, and he's living up to the role that he portrayed in Rogue One. Totally. Yep. I don't see anything where they're deviating from that style. And of course, it's Tony Gilroy that kind of swooped in on that film and kind of said, you need to do this and do that. I mean, I say it all the time on the podcast, but I mean, there was a lot of controversy talking about how there's not going to be fan service. I think the whole thing for me is fan service, but fan service done the right way. Exactly. Dropping in Melshi in there in that prison. That was a great touch. And of course, you see every like the blasters. I mean, the blasters they use in the episode that we just saw in episode 10 were the iconic blasters that we saw in the first several minutes of the original Star Wars on the Tantive 4, and just stuff like that. I mean, it's.
Awesome. I'm like, what? I'm like, who has that blaster? I knew I saw it.
Yeah, for sure. And
there's a lot that they do.
Say that again. You cut off a little bit.
There's a lot of little touches like that they do in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, that scene with Biggs on the last episode, it was like a almost faithful recreation of that scene with Leia, right, when she's getting interrogated.
Where the camera swoops down, it shows the feet walking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, in episode 9. Yeah, I mean, there's homages left and right. Yep. And a pretty cool one, if it was intended. I'm pretty sure it was intended. I mean, you go back to George Lucas's really first kind of professional film in THX 1138,
Yes,
when you
exactly.
have the prisoners and you have Robert Duvall in the white, and of course when you see them in the prison, they look very much like you could have pulled that from like a THX story.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's all there.
It's
Yeah.
and we got to see some creatures today, which people have been complaining about.
Yeah.
When the spy, I don't remember his name, was looking to go meet up with him, he was walking through the city or whatnot, and we saw some cool looking aliens or whatnot. Because people have been complaining about that. I do think it would have been a little interesting to see a couple of them in the prison as well. Not just
Yeah. That's actually something that I brought up last episode. I'm like, I'm not, because we got that cool shot about all the bridges, right, connecting like all the day shifts and night shifts when they switch, and they kept going down like the line. I'm like, man, they all look human to me, like straight up every single one of them. So I'm like, there's not a yeah. I was like, there's not a one blue guy, somewhere, like like one green guy, maybe. Like, I'll take gray at this point, like something.
it
Um,
would have been cool if you just
yeah,
even the background, one or two
yeah,
here or
yeah.
there. I just made it feel a little bit more Star Warsy.
Right. But then, I mean, as we all know, with what within the Empire, I mean, others non-human species basically became like second rate like citizens, right? They really were not taken much into consideration as actual citizens of the Empire, except when it came to taxes, of course, and things like that. So I was like, well, maybe they, like, all the non-humans are in the worst off prisons, right? Like the real bad ones, like on Mustafar and stuff like that. So, but again, that might be just me overthinking it, but that's in my head. That's why there was no blue guy, in any of those floors.
Yeah, I mean, a reasoning could be maybe the job specifically on that prison was more predicated to humanoids or that particular species. I mean, I don't know. It could be one of those things.
For an outstanding show,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I think this great overall. That seeing this episode today, I mean, the season could have ended. I would have been like, wow. I mean, so how are they going to top off? We got 2 episodes left. How is it even top this? Because
right, we got 2 episodes left, right? And my understanding is that both episodes account for the season finale, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, someone came out with all the arcs, and I think one of the initial reports was incorrect. But yeah, the cool thing about Andor is that every time we've anticipated some big set piece to happen, it's happened in the next episode.
Yeah.
And we've kind of got it with like the heist and now with this escape. So they've kind of really given us what we've kind of anticipated in general. So what do you guys think about the length of the shows? Do you think it was a good decision to make a 12-episode season the way they're doing, or do you think maybe they should have given us one big episode with an entire arc in it, like mini movies in a way, but just have less episodes?
What did we get? 2 episodes at first, or 3?
3.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, I think overall it's been good. It just maybe felt a little bit slow up front, but I really wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, I think the way, from all the comments that I keep hearing, if they would have made it's one of those things. Kenobi was 6 episodes, right? And everybody complained that we never got those long hour episodes that were so promised, etc. Right? The show started and ended, and we never got an hour long episode. So we complain about that. And then comes in Andor with 12 episodes and, a little bit longer format and per episode, I mean. And, a lot of people complain about that. So I don't know if there's a sweet spot, at like 9 episodes that, most people would feel like more comfortable with. Me personally, I don't mind it. To me, my general rule of thumb is more Star Wars, better. Okay, uh,
Yeah.
and I understand that is not a rule applicable to everybody, and not everybody maybe has the time or wants to invest, as much time on the show that it's to their eyes maybe not delivering what they were expecting, and I completely understand that. But again, this show is different. That I think that's something that everybody can agree on, right? Whether you like this kind of different or not, that's something else. But it is different in what it is doing, and I think this longer format, and longer, I mean, the 12 episodes, totally lends itself, to this. I think it goes hand in hand. So it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be interesting if we can get an arc in 2 episodes left, right? If that's the way they're gonna do it, or are we gonna get 2/3 of an arc and leave us in a cliffhanger for next season, right? Which, again, of course, there has to be some sort of cliffhanger at the end. I just don't know if they're gonna play it off through the whole arc.
This show to me has been so enjoyable, and even when we did episodes months ago, I said I was really looking forward to it, and I thought people were going to be surprised how good it is, and here we are. It is. So,
Yep.
It's been different, like you said, but do we want to keep seeing the same thing over and over again?
Right. I mean,
Mandalorian feels kind of like a Western original trilogy vibe to it, which I like.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I also appreciate something different. And so when we see
Absolutely.
season 3 of Mandalorian, I'll be excited for that type of show again.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was, I feel it was necessary and inevitable in a way, right? You can't keep making the same show over and over. And I think Book of Boba Fett proved that to a point, right? On some of those episodes.
Those episodes, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because the way I envisioned, Boba Fett, if he was ever to get a show before all of this happened, was basically the Mandalorian. Okay, so I envision him, doing a lot of stuff like the Mandalorian did. So I don't know, if this was, I don't know. I don't know if it was Disney, back then saying you can't use Boba Fett for any of this. You gotta, bring in somebody brand new. But I feel that the path that the Mandalorian show takes, I kind of feel that should have been Boba Fett's path, right? So of course, they already established a character and the mythos around it, and then they're like, hey, now you can use Boba Fett, right? Now go ahead and give us something Boba Fett, and they're like, yeah, well, we kind of already we kind of already spent our cartridge, right? So I feel that was seen through the show, where there was sort of a lack of direction or lack of purpose, maybe to the character.
Make a lot of sense, honestly.
Exactly.
It was like, even Boba Fett as a character, it's like, okay, I could understand you don't want to be a bounty hunter anymore. You don't want to follow what other people tell you to do. But then at the end of the season, he's like saying, these are my people. Like, how are people? And you didn't even talk to these people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, like
your people. I mean, I don't understand.
No, I agree. Like that sense of honor and duty to them, right? It's like, okay, well, but why again? Like, what?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Like, you kind of just showed up and declared yourself like their savior, type of thing. Like,
yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, did that live on Tatooine? Not as far as we know. Right. Like, how are these people in any way from Camino? And what, you know what I mean? That, like, what is going on here? And then I don't know. Boba Fett was a mess to me.
Yeah,
and then show, but it just
for Book of Boba Fett, it didn't help the fact that we were all expecting a really kind of hardcore hero or anti-hero for that show, and we didn't get it, and I think that upset a lot of people. And then people started like really criticizing plot and story and looking at logic and common sense for the character, and it just really didn't vibe. But as far as I know,
it didn't feel. It felt like they had a low budget for it. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they shot in the same area, Manhattan Beach, where they shot The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything has a budget. Even though it seems like Disney has unlimited funds, they still work off a budget.
Right.
And they shot The Mandalorian in the same spot, or they shot the Book of Boba Fett in the same spot where they shot The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka is being shot there too, but I'm not quite sure they're going to go low budget with that. Because I know that's Dave Filoni's really kind of pet project there. And I think
I was going to say, I kind of hope not, because I'm hoping that expands into, of course, Thrawn, the World Between Worlds. If we can get a glimpse again, Kanan, not Kanan, Ezra's story, all of that stuff, right? So I hope they don't cheap out, on that. But like you said, everyone's got a budget, so Book of Boba Fett is just shown through.
It just
and it didn't.
To me, like, even in the stories of like, why do they keep showing the same flashback and nothing happens?
Yeah,
like, show us something. Like, there's no bounty hunters that we could relate to, like Bosk or
exactly
Orlam or anything like that. Show, what it's. I mean, who are those would be alive? I guess some of those would be alive, right? I mean,
yeah.
If Max survived the sail barge,
right.
But it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then you see this show, and you're just like, wow.
Yeah. I totally agree. So yeah, the Legacy of Nerd here on YouTube is watching us, and he's chiming in with a lot of good stuff here. And he's saying Boba Fett is one of those characters that people built up more in their head than what we actually got. And
see, that's the thing. What I think really hurt the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but to his point, is that we actually saw the Boba Fett we wanted, right? For a couple minutes on the Mandalorian show, and everybody was like, "Oh my lord!" Like, give me 12 episodes of just this, right? Him smoking dudes left and right. I'll take it.
We didn't even get that in his own show.
And exactly, and then we get to his show, right? I mean, literally, the closing scene of season 2 of Mandalorian was Boba Fett sitting on the throne, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody
smoking
was
bib
like,
Fortuna.
Exactly, smoking bib Fortuna. Him looking like a badass, just sitting down, Fennec on the side, drinking spotchka, and everybody was like, boom, that's it. Like Mando who? Like Boba, right?
Yeah.
And then we get Book of Boba Fett, and we're like, what happened? Like, did they not watch what they did? Like, in that other show? Like, what's going on?
The story just, could you imagine if Tony Gilroy had done Book of Boba Fett? We would be crying, we'd be weeping. It would be so beautiful to see the writing with Boba Fett. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was just, his character was a mess to me, and it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure we're going to see him in Mandalorian season 3, and I'm sure it'll be great because he was great in Mandalorian.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, how great was it seeing him in, what was it, episode 15 and 16? Total, right? Season 2.
Yeah.
Where it was, and he was just incredible in Mandalorian.
It's crazy. I mean,
and directed by the same guy, Robert Rodriguez, and Favreau came up with that story, and then Favreau came up with the complete story, pretty much, of Book of Boba Fett. And then there's rumors that we're going to get a season 2, and that hasn't really kind of bubbled up recently, because there's like some type of like weird leak from like South America on a Disney Plus pamphlet or something that an announcement was coming. I don't know if maybe Lucasfilm was like kind of putting that out there just to see what the general audience reaction to that would be. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that was a tactic, and a lot of people, I think, share the same kind of sentiment that we want the Boba Fett from the Mandalorian season 2 for sure.
Yeah.
And
not the Spy Kids on their like driving 5 miles an hour, like that episode of Seinfeld when they're on the Rascals.
Yeah, I mean, some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. I think we can all say that the Book of Boba Fett didn't work out the way we wanted to. But when you watch the gallery episode of the behind the scenes, they really talk about certain things. Like, oh my gosh, like they're talking about stuff that got me hyped up about the show that I had already watched. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, we got what we got, but I mean, the way they kind of like pumped it up, it was like it was a different show almost. And
Yeah.
it's kind of unfortunate. But see, that leads me to my next kind of topic here, because when you have a story concentrated on an anti-hero or an antagonist or a villain, how do you create a film, a TV show centered around that? You know, I mean, there's no real hero, no good guy to concentrate on. And you look at like modern day cinema and you have stuff like the Suicide Squad. I mean, I think James Gunn did a great job pulling off that second movie, but with now news and casting information for the Acolyte, that's going to be the new kind of challenge that Disney's going to have with the show that's kind of more concentrated on the dark side. But with the new synopsis that just dropped a couple days ago, it looks like it's going to center around maybe like a lost Padawan that reunites with their master, and they kind of do like a investigation on all the dark side stuff that happens in that show, which is at the end of the High Republic and kind of leads into Palpatine's eventual takeover. So, what do you guys think about the new Acolyte news? And are you guys excited about the Acolyte, Craig?
When I first heard about the show, I was thinking, oh, is this going to be like about some Sith Lord, or you know what I mean? And it seemed more interesting than the updates that I've heard. But I want to hear more about it before I mean, I'm going to watch it obviously before I judge, but I'm not too excited about the Acolyte. It just feels too far away. I don't really know any of the cast. I don't really know what the story's really going to be quite about yet. So I'm kind of like, okay, we'll see. But, with Ahsoka and Mandalorian coming up in the near future, I'm more like excited for that.
Yeah, General Kenobi.
So I like that it's set in, well, borderline still in the High Republic era, right? Because we haven't seen that, on a show, right, animated or live action. So I'm excited about that part. If I understood the timeline correctly, we could be encroaching in what used to be Darth Plagueis territory, right, in terms of the storyline. So, so I was just having the discussion, but so Darth Plagueis, the character itself is canon because it was mentioned in the movie, right? But his story or his backstory or his interaction with Palpatine, all of that is sort of up in the wind, right? Because he was left out on the Legends, right? It's not part of the Disney publishing era, so technically it's not canon anymore. So if this show leads to Darth Plagueis, being reconnected into the saga, I'm all for it. Okay, that's not to say that Darth Plagueis will be, necessarily like the main, bad guy, right?
Yeah,
we could be
Plagueis
dealing with
is canon because he's in Episode 3. He's mentioned there, so
exactly right. So that's what I meant, right? Like, so we know that he exists, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't know exactly where on the timeline he exists anymore. Or honestly, even if he's still, considered to be Palpatine's master, right? Because again,
I don't think they're going to change that.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. But I'm just saying that officially, it hasn't been explicitly said within the new canon or the official canon. So I would love to see, if maybe we're talking about Darth Plagueis' master, right? Around this period of time. So I'm excited for that part, and it might be too obvious to actually do that. I don't know, but to me, the point in the story where I think this is going to take place sort of lines up, right? because again, if we're coming off of the High Republic era, which is what 250 years before, what is it, episode 1? So and I think this is towards the end of that. So I read somewhere, somebody mentioned about 100 years before episode 1.
Yeah, I think initial reports were when they initially announced Acolyte, it was 200 years, but I think they changed it to 100 years before the events of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, so that already sort of puts it, again, that kind of lines up for Darth Plagueis, maybe a young Darth Plagueis, right?
Well, he's a right. So how long do they live?
I think they live a little longer than humans do.
Right.
It's not much longer, and I know their anatomy is a little different internally.
Right. But again, if we add the factor about his dark side powers, he could be extending his life and all of that stuff, right? Which again would be cool. So I'm excited about that possibility. But in terms of the show itself, them dropping the how can I say it? The synopsis is I'm hoping we're actually not really gonna be focusing too much on that Padawan and Master. I hope they're sort of just like the gateway for the audience. Mm-hmm. Again, this is supposed to be primarily, at least, a dark side, show, right? Like, so it's supposed to be based around that. So I'm hoping they go that route. That they still keep. Obviously, this is almost at the pinnacle of power for Jedi, right? So there's plenty of Jedi out there. They're almost at their most powerful. Yoda's around, obviously, things like that, right? So I'm hoping they stay focused to what I hope the show is. Again, covering what's going on the other side, right? What's going on in the shadows? What's going on? How even when the Jedi are so powerful, this is the most powerful we know they are. How are there still Sith around, right? Like, how are they still moving along their agenda, right? So I'm hoping we get some insight to that.
Yeah.
So did they start shooting that yet, David, or no?
Yes, they started shooting it, I believe. They dropped a picture with Leslie Headland.
Right.
Yeah, here's a picture of the cast here. It was a picture with Amandla Stenberg and Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game there. I don't know, we might be looking at a picture of Plagueis right here. But yeah, the official synopsis that dropped was...
Who do you think is Plagueis?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, could it be Lee Jung-jae? I mean...
No, we got 4 guys on there, so I'm assuming it'd be one of those 4.
Right.
And that guy in the bottom left and the bottom middle look a little young. So yeah, I suppose Lee Jung, he would be most likely, based on those. They look pretty young,
Yeah.
That would be an awesome reveal if we go a ways through the show and then it's revealed that that's actually Plagueis.
Yeah.
But yeah, the synopsis, I wanted to read it right quick. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. So there are some clues there. Former Padawan.
Okay, so we got to...
And it says her, so it's a female former Padawan. So I'm guessing it's Daphne King. I mean, because I think Amandla Stenberg is the antagonist here.
Oh, she is?
Yes.
All right.
That's what I got from the announcement of her being cast was she's the star of the show.
Do we know who Jodie Turner is, or
no?
All right. It's a little weird that Carrie Ann is in this from Matrix. Kind of takes you out of it a little bit when you see other people and stuff like that sometimes.
You think she's the Master?
Could be.
I mean, she's pretty athletic. I mean, she's familiar with stunt work.
Would make sense.
Yeah. But I love Daphne King. What she did in Logan was incredible as a little kid. Yeah. And I know she does his Dark Materials on HBO. and I think she's a terrific actress. I think she has it.
So when is Acolyte supposed to come out this year?
I'm not quite sure if it's gonna be next year or the year after. Yeah, I know I'm already thinking 2023 myself. Because after Andor, I mean, there's a big like void there. There was a little rumor that dropped that maybe Disney Plus was gonna drop like a little Grogu like mini
I saw that
episode or something.
Giving like a show episode, probably.
Almost like a holiday special type thing. I don't know.
There you go.
Build up the hype for the toys.
Oh yeah. Got to remind those kids, who's king in those aisles.
I will say one thing about Andor. It's that I can sit down with my daughter, who's 4, and watch Mandalorian, and she'll tell you all the characters. You obviously won't understand the story so much, but I couldn't. There's no way a young kid is gonna be able to follow this show.
Well, I don't know. A lot of kids surprise me, Craig, because I'll talk to kids and they're like watching stuff like Deadpool, and it's like, how did your parents let you watch Deadpool? But yeah, I mean, kids are getting more and more sophisticated as all these generations roll along. But I mean, there's a lot to digest story-wise for Andor. Yeah. That's a cool thing. All new characters, so many names, so many different planets introduced. That's the other cool thing about Andor is that we go to places we never seen. Say that again, Craig.
Even remember half the names of the characters.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've noticed, and I'm sure everybody here probably, is on the same boat. All those pre-orders that they've announced, for either the Black Series or Vintage Collection, I'm not that interested in the figures,
I
off of Andor. I'm sorry, like they're all great actors and everything, but for me to take up, what little shelf space I've got with honestly with any of those characters, Andor included, I'm like, no. I'm like,
I've thought the same.
I'm good.
And I pre-ordered like the Vintage Collection stuff, but all the Black Series stuff, no interest.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, we could.
Yeah.
Look at the 3 of us behind us. It's a
exactly. We know we eat this stuff up. Like,
you know what we're talking about here. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely. I still have unopened stuff right here.
Any of the Black Series stuff for them. I like the vintage cards and stuff, so I'll get those. But yeah, on the same boat as you. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just it doesn't even tempt me to be like, yeah, I need Andor dressed up as an Imperial. I'm like, not really. No, I don't.
Yeah, what is the figure that you would want from the show, really? I mean,
it's funny because I was actually thinking about that. I'm like, have we seen a new trooper on this show?
We got him in Obi-Wan.
We did, yeah. And I pre-ordered that one.
That what was that? The shock? No, not a shock trooper. It was the black and with the red visor.
Yeah, the Purge trooper.
Purge trooper.
Yeah, phase 1, I think, or phase 2, I forget.
Yeah, I think but we haven't seen. In fact, we really haven't seen hardly any Imperials.
Nope.
As far as like,
I was thinking. Yeah, as far as anybody in armor, we got short troopers, which we've gotten plenty of.
Yeah, we got the KX droids.
We got the KX droids. So that's probably about the most like visually entailing like figure, but even stormtroopers, right? And they've been just regular stormtroopers, right? All white. Aside from that, yeah, I can't think of a new trooper that we've seen. So I don't know. That's usually what comes out of these shows, right? Some sort of new trooper. And I'm down with all the troopers, but I don't know. Honestly, I mean, they're all human, like we just discussed, right? So again, visually, for as a toy, let's call it, right, as an action figure, they're not super awesome.
Yeah, someone made the joke online that we don't have that Grogu for Andor. It's like we need a baby in Andor, and someone was like, "Baby Borgullet." I mean,
sold.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Color me interested, sir. Like
Borgullet when they're swimming out of the water.
Yes, exactly. Borgullet attaches,
and they're gonna swim.
Exactly. It's like a face hugger, but a little bit cuter. And
That's
that's it.
I think we've come on to something.
I
Next week,
think
how did they know?
yeah, exactly. Tony Gilroy, take notice. Andor presents him as a gift to Saw Gerrera.
The
He
origin
suffer.
story of
Borg, yeah, exactly. Baby Borg Gullet sold. Let's put it on a T-shirt.
Coming next Thanksgiving. Grogu, Baby Borg Gullet.
Exactly.
That's a nice ring to it.
It does.
Yeah, hey.
It's like a detective story. These two misfits on an adventure together. Baby Borg Gullet.
Love it.
Every other minute, Grogu's trying to eat him.
Exactly. He's trying to take a bite of one of his tentacles.
Axel.
Yeah, I think we stumbled on something there.
Oh yeah.
But now for the part of the program where we talk a little about some a little less positive news here. So this guy right here, his name is J.D. Dillard, and he was announced to actually be working on a film project, but unfortunately, the Hollywood Reporter just released a new exclusive article revealing that director J.D. Dillard and writer Matt Owens were developing a Star Wars film for Lucasfilm. At the time, Lucasfilm and Disney were reportedly undecided whether or not the project was for the big screen or a title for the Disney Plus streaming service. However, word on the project has been silent, with most fans assuming it was no longer development, and it appears those suspicions were correct. And several other media outlets have confirmed that this man is no longer developing anything TV or film-wise. So we lost another director. I know he was not as famous, not as hailed, but as Benioff and Weiss and Josh Trank and everything. But, I mean, we lose another one. But then we gain someone, it appears, this gentleman, Sean Levy, who I think audiences may be a little bit more familiar with him. I know I am, just for the simple fact that I've watched and I've kind of stayed in contact with the news in regards to Stranger Things and Ryan Reynolds. So Sean Levy is being reported as a possible impossible talks with Lucasfilm to be the next director of a film. And Deadline is claiming that the Star Wars film will become Levy's focus once he wraps production on Deadpool 3, which he's working on with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. So, yeah, he's actually moving up in the world. So don't hold your breath. I know it's a laundry list now of directors being confirmed by different media outlets to be working on, and I do believe them, and then they leave for one reason or another. And we all know that mandate that Bob Chapek gave Kathleen Kennedy to stop announcing stuff, so the fandom doesn't cry out when they leave the project. So, what do you guys think about the whole carousel of directors?
I think Star Wars is such a unique
genre.
Great word, thank you. That we're very hard to please the fan. Okay, we have high expectations, and we pretty much complain about just about everything. So they know they have to get it right, especially after how divided things became with the movie that shall not be named. So I think maybe they're trying to maybe Kathleen is wanting to announce things because she thinks a project is going to take off, and then it doesn't go the way she wants it to go, and then you wind up getting fired halfway through the project and replaced.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough though, because George had a vision, a unique vision, and I don't think a lot of people possess that same ability to have the vision that he does, to walk around a model table with 30 Jabba the Hutts and be like, that's the one. You know what I mean? Like, that's the ship, that's the design, that's the thing. creating this universe. Now, I don't think many people have the ability to do that. And so it's tough to get people that can. I think Jon Favreau and Filoni do a great job of that. But I hate to say it, I don't think Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams did. I mean, even J.J., I think, really struggled.
So, I mean, you bring up a lot of points that I want to talk about there. So, going to your J.J. Abrams point there, it just came out that Lucasfilm, I think someone released a story that Lucasfilm admitted that they rushed the sequel trilogy. And of course, we all know that. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
Shows.
I mean, once Disney acquired Lucasfilm, they're like, we got to pump out those films. And we were all in shock, like, oh my God, they want to, yeah, let's go, let's do this. And then we were kind of like midway through, like, well, maybe that's not the best idea, but we're getting Star Wars again. It's like the thing that has happened twice before in reality in 77 and 99. It's going to happen again in 2015. And we just wanted it so bad. And we kind of got what we got. But of course, they had to continue on and please the shareholders and make their money back. But they made their money back with that first film, essentially, you know, with all the toys and the film box office and then home video and all that stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of a cautionary tale. But see, the very interesting thing is I know I have been clamoring for a setup to where even if Kathleen Kennedy stays on, great. She's one of the greatest of all time producers, but she's not a Star Wars fan through and through. I mean, she's not. You can't have a conversation about Plagueis with her. I mean, she might kind of like offhand know that character and just kind of nod her head, but I mean, she's not gonna know the lore like a Filoni. So it's interesting that DC kind of like took that information and they just hired someone to be on the financial side, and then they hired a separate CEO to be on the creative side in James Gunn. Yeah. So now there's a new DCU with two people at the top, one making creative decisions and one essentially kind of doing the producing and signing the checks now. So I think that's something I think Lucasfilm could really, really benefit from. And I think that would put to bed all the stuff of we got to fire Kathleen Kennedy, we got to get rid of her. I think if there was someone at the top handling creative and saying this is the direction we need to go and have one kind of unified vision of where everything kind of needs to lead up to, because when you look at Andor, it's great, yeah, sure, but I don't think Favreau or Filoni really had all that much input into what was going down. I might be wrong, I don't know, but I know the story group was involved. But I think as a collective fan base that's in the know, I think we all kind of want Filoni to take on that position, and he really proved himself with The Mandalorian and now with Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka, if Ahsoka is just ridiculously great, I mean, you got to put Filoni at the top right next to Kathleen Kennedy making the big decisions for Star Wars. And I have a feeling that show
wants that though, because that would put a lot of pressure on him and take away a lot of the time that he would have to spend writing and developing the actual stories that he wants to do.
That is a good point. We don't know what he wants. We don't know if he wants to climb the corporate ladder. That's the thing people question about Kevin Feige too. A lot of people say he's going to move on from Marvel, and of course he has a Star Wars film on his plate. We don't know when that's going to drop. So that's kind of the big question.
This last phase of Marvel has been not good.
Roughies, yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry if you guys like it, but for me, it's like I watched one episode of She-Hulk and I'm like, what am I watching?
I still haven't, so I'm right there with you.
This episode was so bad for me. I mean, honestly, like this whole phase has been disappointing for me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I don't know.
I actually love She-Hulk. It met my expectations for what I thought I was gonna get. So I mean, it was like a sitcom.
So maybe I'll give it a little bit more of a try. But that first episode was brutal for me. I was just.
I mean, did you like Ally McBeal?
No.
It's basically that. It's basically that.
Ally, wasn't that Callista Flockhart from like?
Yeah, Harrison Ford's wife.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I ever watched that show. No.
It's essentially that. It's a little less quirky, but I mean, it's kind of it's fourth wall breaking, like Deadpool. She talks to the camera.
I didn't like the fact that, like, even in the first episode, like, she doesn't have any struggles with becoming the Hulk. Meanwhile, Bruce Banner's been struggling with it for 20 years or whatever the heck it is. It's like, what? You're fine 30 seconds later? Like, what? It just annoyed me. It's like,
yeah.
How does it make sense? I don't know. So the whole phase for me has not been so good. I mean, WandaVision was okay. Thor was Love and Thunder was okay. What else was in this phase?
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange was okay.
Werewolf by Night. Did you ever check that out?
I still haven't. Werewolf by Night.
No, and I didn't even watch the Eternals. It looked so boring.
Yeah, that's 4 hours. I'm never gonna get back.
A little bland. But Werewolf by Night was actually directed by the score, the composer of Rogue One, Michael Giacchino.
Oh, nice. I've heard good things about it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard really good things about it. So it's definitely on my list.
Also, the other Star Wars connection is Kerry Jones, I believe his name is, the guy that was in the suit for Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
Played one of the characters in there as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. And he was actually at Alamo City Comic Con. Did you go, General Kenobi?
I did. I got to see Katie Sackhoff out here, and I think I saw him too, but he was walking away already.
Maybe there was 2 different conventions that happened. I think there was like something big, Alamo City Comic Con, and then there was another convention. I think
there was a big one 2 weekends ago, maybe. Okay. But I didn't get to go to that one.
David, you're big on rumors. Have we heard any rumors about possible upcoming shows or any possible upcoming leaks? I haven't heard any leaks about Mandalorian season 3.
I've heard a lot.
Really?
There's a lot of stuff. I've kind of strayed away a little bit from it because I've gone into stuff kind of thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't have been spoiled on that. But I mean, it's just so intriguing. And it's such a weird kind of culture, the spoiler culture. That exists. The actual spoiler culture. There's a lot of people out there that straight up lie on the internet, and there's a lot of people out there that actually unbelievably do have sources, and it's like how is this possible?
Making StarWars.net with Jason and
Bespin Bulletin too. I totally trust them. That's why I read all their stories, because I mean they're right on. I mean, if the stuff that they don't even hit on, and if I report it, people will come back and say, well, that didn't happen, that wasn't true. It's like, well, I mean, it happened, but they just cut it out of the film, or they just kind of pivoted to something else. But I'm pretty sure that was the case. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. Mandalorian season 3, there's a lot of stuff, man.
Really?
There's a whole lot of stuff. I don't want to say it here. I don't spoil anything, but it's gonna figure to be really, really crowd pleasing, really interesting, very, very. It seems like a higher budget. They've increased the budget. I think we've seen with all the trailers. If you're at Celebration, and then the trailer they released online, and then the rumor is we're gonna get a trailer on Christmas Day.
Right.
I don't know if you guys heard that.
I did hear that.
There's a lot of stuff, man. There's a lot of stuff. Really interesting. I haven't heard any Christopher Lloyd stuff. I know he's been kind of talked about. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Story and plot. There's a lot of that out there, but it's going to drop in February. The rumor for that is February 23rd, I believe. Yeah. It's right around the corner. I mean, we're going to get it pretty soon here. So, and we're going to get the Bad Batch at the start of January.
And then I feel like sometimes they're dragging their feet with releasing these shows. I'm sure the show was done, and the same thing with Tales from the Jedi, which was excellent, by the way. Loved it. They were short, but they were great. Made Dooku's character so much more.
Right.
So I mean, but I feel like they just take forever to release the show, and I'm sure it's done.
Well, they were gonna release it this year, right? Bad Batch.
Yeah, come out in the summertime, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
August,
there was like a
September?
domino effect happening because they didn't want this. So initially we're gonna get Andor 2 episodes in August, and then they pushed it probably due to the fact that House of the Dragon and Rings of Power was coming out. But it created like a really, really cool pocket of time for me, especially because I would watch House of the Dragon Sunday night after Sunday Night Football, and then watch Andor Tuesday leading into Wednesday morning, and then Thursday watch Thursday Night Football, which would lead into Rings of Power.
Rings of Power, yeah.
And then I would just repeat that. Oh, and She-Hulk would drop on Wednesdays, I believe. Or I can't remember anymore. But I mean, I had like 4 shows going all simultaneously. So yeah, like I said, it was a domino effect. They moved Andor. They gave us the 3 episodes, which was a great move. Very, very smart, because it feels like these 30-minute. That's why I asked the question earlier. These 30-minute bite-sized chunks of the Andor story. It's a little frustrating for me. I want a complete arc to see and kind of absorb. I think that would maybe help out Andor's cause with viewership, but like you said earlier, it's like a lot of people aren't watching this, but I think it's primarily based on the fact that it's not an Obi-Wan, it's not a Vader, which they really do need to make a Vader series. I don't care what anyone says about Vader got 3 movies. He got a whole trip. No, he really didn't. But because I think there's a lot to talk about and share and show with Vader actually being in the suit doing things there.
Yeah,
which
I mean, some of the stories that they've been covering on his comic book are pretty good. I won't say all of them because that's an overstatement, but there are some legitimate gems in there about his struggle, he coming to grips with what he is now, what he has to do. Of course, all the trials that Palpatine puts him through, all the schemes, all of that stuff, is pretty fun. So it'd be cool to watch a show based on that.
Yeah, if they could do it the right way, it would certainly be interesting.
Exactly.
But I mean, that scene in Obi-Wan was just that was one of the best Star Wars scenes ever. I mean, like it's just and to we wouldn't really be able to see that side of him again, because in that moment it seemed like he was going back and forth between Anakin and Vader in the very in that moment. It's like, but after that, like, really Anakin's got to kind of be out of the picture. So you would think he wouldn't have so much internal struggle at that point.
Right. Yeah, especially 10 years after, right? I mean,
yeah, and he clarified it with, you didn't kill Anakin. I did. Yeah.
Which I love, by the way.
His face, he was like happy about it, like I killed him.
Yeah, very like sinister and creepy. Yeah, with the red light, the lightsaber went from blue to red.
And it's interesting. Before that scene, seeing that scene really changed an aspect of Darth Vader for me. Probably for you guys too, right? On some level, I felt like maybe he had like dissociated and created like a multiple personality, because he couldn't handle the trauma. And that my supervisor, who has dealt with DID and trauma and many clients that have it, has told me that she's had clients say, I killed one of the main person that they come.
Right.
So to me, it made a whole nother level to that character.
Mm-hmm.
And so much more complex. Like, was this alter Darth Vader coming out, and that's why Darth Vader or Anakin was like in the back and is unconscious all those years.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean that's the logical progression of dissecting that type of character. I mean, you got to figure that that's the only way that that person, now it's hardly a person, kind of survives and keeps going after all the crazy trauma that happened to him physically, mentally, and that's just a terrible thing.
Yeah, and in fact, if you really think about it, like the initial trauma of mom dying in his arms could have caused somebody to split in that moment
Right.
because they
Right.
handle it, and he created the altar in that moment when he goes crazy, and kills
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would be interesting. I don't know how they could quite use any of that at that point in the series. You know what I mean? Unless somehow they did it leading up to the Obi-Wan show.
My pitch was have Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2, but of course Obi-Wan and Vader never meet. They have parallel storylines, so you can get the Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan stuff happening in the training out
Yeah.
in the desert of Tatooine. I know a lot of people don't want to see Tatooine again, but I can't get enough of it. I love Tatooine. Tatooine has a huge backstory. It used to be oceans on Tatooine. But anyways, you could have concurrent running storylines. They never meet. It's like a Vader Obi-Wan show, and Vader's hunting down maybe other Jedi that survived Order 66, and him with that mental struggle that we just talked about, and
Yeah.
how we can get flashbacks of him and Padme, and maybe have a de-aging scene there and bring back Natalie Portman. I'm sure she's game. I mean, she came back to Disney and Marvel, and I mean,
It'd be interesting. I don't know. I still would love to see a Luke series. Do you guys think that's possible, feasible at this point? The
yeah,
the age, or whatever I don't even know what you want to call it. The technology they used for Book of Boba Fett was just incredible.
yeah, it was incredible. But the whole challenge with that is, as my buddy, Carl, pointed out, then when there's movement with the deep fakes, that the face just kind of like floats, and you can't track a human face still yet, and you see the actual actor's face underneath. If you go back and watch those episodes where Luke is training with Grogu, you can actually see the other actor's face if you pause it just right, or if you just concentrate, you can see the other actor.
Mm-hmm.
But now the avenue of maybe having a Tales of the Jedi focusing on Luke, that option is now on the table, I think. And I think with the critical universal success
Oh yeah.
of that show, Lucasfilm's looking at it like, well, they seem to like it. Let's green light another series and have some more kind of Tales drops. But yeah, the
Yeah.
Dooku stuff was fantastic.
Yeah, I give you a miniseries just to that, right? But yeah, I like that they actually pushed a little bit the storyline in that first Dooku episode, right? When with the young Qui-Gon. I mean, that's about as far back as we've gone on a show, right? In terms of the timeline, right? I know stories, there's plenty of them that go way back. But in terms of the main timeline, I think that's what 20, maybe 30 years before Phantom Menace. So we're pretty out there already, which I like. I mean, I'm all for it. Let's start expanding a little bit, right? Let's start pushing the before and after. Let's start focusing maybe a little bit away from our comfort zone, right? Of this like 40 years of story, or well, it's a little bit more than that. So I enjoyed that part. So if you give me one far ahead, with Luke, I'm all for it. If you give me one, all the way back to the High Republic, or just after it, right? Or what caused the decline of the Jedi Order, tell me in like 3 little shorts, just like you did with Dooku. Again, I am all for that. And we are absolutely gonna get more Tales of the Jedi. I mean, there's no question about it.
Do you think we're gonna get Luke in Mandalorian season 3?
I don't think I've seen leaks on that, but you would think that they would add him back, because he's kind of like a character now in the Mandalorian. I mean, you
I
can
was
have
just
him
gonna
fighting
say,
with the green lightsaber with the hood on, film him from the back, and it's fine. I mean, it's there.
yeah, in the same way that I think we will see Boba Fett, right?
What
In
if they?
Mando. Yeah, exactly, right. I am all for that,
Awkward.
but yeah. Ooh. So yeah, sorry about dropping you into the Sarlacc.
He'd probably be like, I had it coming.
Yeah, exactly. They're my people now, so it's cool.
Jeez.
But yeah, and in terms of all this, in and out of directors, I mean, look, it's a huge franchise, right? It's probably the biggest one being worked on right now in multiple projects. I I think it's just how can I say it? It's not feasible to think that there will not be any changes from here, from inception to completion, or release of the project. Like there is absolutely going to be changes, and some of those changes will not sit well with the director or the studio, right? If it's the director pushing, I think that just comes in normally. Now, this is way higher visibility because again, it is Star Wars, and like Craig mentioned, Star Wars worst enemy is a Star Wars fan. So we are
It's
looking
you,
at
General Kenobi.
exactly right. Hey, the Republic was brought down from within. So it's kind of like those things, right? We are definitely uh, looking, under the microscope, every single movement, every single word they say, every single announcement there is, right? Every sentence of those announcements. So I mean, it's just, it might seem maybe in the overall, you're like, oh, hey man, we just lost, 2 or 3 directors this year, right? But I'm like, yeah, but look at how many projects we got, right? I mean, we got what, maybe 10 projects in the works, at various stages. So, it's a lot going on with the franchise. So, and absolutely, they have to get it right. They've had hits and misses, right? I'd say they're about, maybe up on the hit list right now, but it just takes that one bad movie or that one bad series to bring it all down again.
Well, I think the biggest problem with the sequel trilogy is that Disney was trying to force us to like all these new characters, and they didn't give people what they wanted, which was we waited 30 years for our original cast back.
Yeah.
Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, the droids all together, Lando, drinking Colt 45.
Yep.
And we didn't get it. We didn't even get one scene of it, not even a flashback.
No.
And that's the biggest mistake they made, in my opinion. Had they had them all together, at least for half the movie, included some of the new characters, and then they have to go separate ways for whatever reason, that would have made a lot more sense than making us wait 30 years for characters we don't know or care about. I want to see Han Solo and Luke and Leia, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that first movie should have been the handoff, like you said, right? Let's get a story with our original heroes, and then you know what? We are whatever. We are too old. We are too involved. We are whatever it is, right? And we got to split up. But new characters, you guys are gonna have to keep the fight, going, all of that stuff, right? And then move forward on the second movie, develop all your characters, right? Make us care about them. And then third movie, you close it all out, right? Maybe you bring back the original heroes, right? For that last push against, the big evil, whatever it was, not Palpatine again. So, that's how you close it out, right? I mean, you bring out in their dire, time of need, you bring out, Luke just to give them that last push, right? Or Han or whatever. And then boom, we're home free.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't give people what we had been waiting forever.
Yeah.
And then to make it even worse, they take Luke Skywalker and just desecrate his character, and I don't care what anyone
says.
Life-size Luke Skywalker bust up there.
Oh, nice.
Custom.
So, very nice.
To me, it was, had you given us the characters the way we know and love them, you could have went another directions in the second and the third. But because you give us what we've been waiting for all those years, and then you dump on one of our favorite characters and make him like a completely different person, it was just like, what?
Yeah.
And it just really, the fan base just like became so divided. It was like, I've never seen anything like it.
Right.
Of course, it was 95% hating Last Jedi, and then 5 people that do a lot of drugs, they have mental health problems, and liked it.
There you go.
See, an hour and 14 minutes in, so nobody's even listening at this point.
On that note,
I'm coming as Craig 5 this next time, so they can't get angry at me. They're like, "Oh, that was the other Craig."
No, that was Remember how I talk about split personalities? Yeah, that was number 4.
That was 4. He was no good.
Exactly.
5 is here. He's ready.
Yeah, no good. He rooted for the Yankees. Yeah.
Will we get hate?
All right.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'll frame it.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll totally see on that.
But I think that was so sensitive. Yeah, thank you. I think that made us so sensitive that's really why Disney has to be so careful right now.
Yeah.
With Star Wars, because of what happened with that sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Solo, a lot of people like Solo. I thought it was pretty good. To me, I think one small change would have made a big difference. Harrison Ford should have helped narrate it. Even just an intro, the beginning, here and there, where you hear him, it would have made it feel a lot more like Han.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what they do with like Young Wonder Years or something like that, Just adding Harrison on some level would have, I think, made people feel more like I'm watching Han Solo, Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Could have helped, yeah.
Because there was a lot of people upset about that movie too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So,
Oh.
All right, guys. Well, on that note, General Kenobi, tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. Main YouTube channel called General Kenobi's Bunker. We talk about Star Wars, of course. We go toy hunting for Star Wars. We do toy reviews. We do episode reviews such as Tales of the Jedi. I am just about wrapping up that series. And we also go live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central on my show called The High Ground. So if you like to talk about Star Wars, please join us there. I would greatly appreciate, if you guys check us out.
You can't find me anywhere. Don't bother me, you Last Jedi likers.
Yeah, you can send all your emails to Craig Fort, Star Wars Stuff Podcast at gmail.com. I'll sift through them, I guess.
It'll be like, subject is, I loved Last Jedi.
Also, you can find us at Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast, on Twitter, if it still exists after a couple weeks here, at Stuff Pod, TikTok.
We can't afford $8 a month. We need you guys to sponsor us.
Yeah, I guess we technically could get verified, huh? Pay the $8 a month.
Ask someone to sponsor us for $8 a month. Do you look at poor David? He's hungry. He can't.
Yeah. All I got here are these sunflower seeds.
No. Yeah.
Support our verified check mark today. It'll be like one of those commercials for the dogs and like the rescue center.
Sarah McLachlan playing in the background.
There you go. Sold.
Yeah.
David needs $8.
All right, for the fourth time on that note, my name is David. For General Kenobi, Craig 4. May the Force be with you.
Always.